Welcome to DEIJ Hot Takes. My name is Daryl Sinclair, and this is the podcast where we discover the bold and transformative ideas shaping diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice work today. In this episode, we are joined by Nicole Demos, who is a Diversability advocate, a Senior Europe board member and course facilitator, and has been a teacher for 32 years. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Daryl, for having me. Nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you. And could you please share with us the DEIJ hot take that's guiding your work?
Okay. The DEIJ hot take that's guiding my work is that inclusion is more than just a ramp.
I really like how you phrased that there. A physical element of inclusivity, which is often neglected, especially from what I've seen in my space. So, because this is not so commonly discussed, could you take us through what this means in the context of DEIJ work? Why do you feel this is a hot take? And how do you make this a reality in the work you do?
Okay. I think it's a hot take because it's one of those issues that doesn't get addressed fully. It's an afterthought or not a thought. I think and I can only speak in context of schools, when schools talk about inclusion, they might say something like, oh, we have an elevator in our school, or we have a ramp that's totally not usable for someone using a non-electric wheelchair, but we have a ramp, so that should be okay. Or, yeah, we have a disabled toilet on the first floor, but nothing nowhere else, and we don't have a backup plan if the elevator breaks down. It almost reminds me of a checklist. Like, do we have an elevator? Yes. Do we have some sort of ramp for a wheelchair user to use? Well, yeah, possibly. Okay, so then we've made our space inclusive. We can say that if it's a student on crutches or a student that needs to use another mobility aid or a student that has an assistant helping them, but maybe mobility is quite a challenge for them, but we'll make it inclusive because we're allowing that assistant to accompany that student in the classroom. So we're good. We're good. Doesn't matter if, it's been snowing and the walkway getting to school hasn't been properly cleaned. So someone with a physical disability or even a non-visible disability could fall and slip and not get into school.
So it seems that there's many aspects beyond the most visible and the most commonly referred to. What are some of the other, you've given some of the examples there of walkways and mobility. Are there any other very not obvious, but important concepts of mobility and physical access which you feel are not being addressed consistently enough by schools?
Well, I think it would be really great if we as an educational culture would shy away from the traditional type of classroom, which is desks and chairs, the teacher at the front of the room, and that's that, and rather create safe spaces so that all of our students will feel supported in their learning journey. So if you feel more comfortable riding a bike, like a stationary bike while you read, we'll get you a stationary bike while you read. If I feel the most comfortable at a desk that's only for me, and I can put my things out and nobody bothers me, and I can do my work quietly and maybe put on a set of headphones, then let's provide that. If we want to do a group activity that requires us to have lots of discussion and we want to sit on a comfortable chair outside of the classroom, let's provide that. But I think it just goes at looking at things that we can make to make everyone feel like they belong in that space, they feel comfortable in that space, and that their voice, no matter how silent or non-existent it might be, is still heard by someone. And it doesn't make a difference if that's a teaching assistant, the school secretary, the I don't even know, the janitor, the nurse, the cafeteria worker, someone that really can say, yes, I know all about Daryl. I know how he learns. I know what he likes, what he dislikes. I can tell from the moment he walks in the school space that he's going to have a great day, or, oh, maybe something's up, but he's really reluctant to share because, being in school isn't just about reading out of a book or writing an essay. It's about having that comfortable space because you're in that space for so many hours.
Yes.
A lot of times some of our students are more in that space than they are in their own homes.
Mhm.
I know that might sound bizarre. So looking at inclusivity from that wider lens, that it's not just a checkbox item. It's
Yeah.
something that we practice. It's something that we believe in. It's something that we reevaluate. Are we doing enough? Are we doing too much? What else do we need? How many other perspectives can we get so that it's more than just, it's a collective team, right?
And
It's how we have those conversations.
well, I like how you focus on the conversation there because, I personally of my with my work, I see that universal design is a lovely concept, but what may be even more important than that is having a design which is open to the voices of the people who are actually experiencing the space. So, like you said, it might be the teacher, it might be the student, it might be a
Mm-hmm.
parent, but for people to be able to say, this is what we need in this space, and for that to be
Yeah.
listened to and taken on board is critical. And it might be a ramp. It might be the spacing in a classroom or the seat. It might be the text on the screen. There's so many different
There's so
physical
many.
elements to it. But what I would say is, of my experience, and I think this is a narrative I hear quite commonly, many schools hesitate due to sometimes the longer term nature of physical alterations to a space. Perhaps the required investment or the amount of time it would take to do the work. In your experience with your work,
Mm-hmm.
how have you approached these concerns or advocated to break through that resistance that schools sometimes have to making physical
To,
alterations?
to be honest with you, the answer always is, well, we don't have enough money for that, right?
Mm,
It's not in the budget. So then my retort back would be, well, why isn't it in for everybody to benefit from?
mhm.
It is not just because of one person or 3% of your school population. If you've done it and you've made it inclusive in the right way the first time, then you won't need to make those adjustments. If you're making your marketing ploy like, yes, we are an inclusive school and we have the right spaces, then do it. Usually, what happens in my experience, 5 years down the line, you're up for an evaluation from some governing body that's going to come in and make sure that you've dotted your i's and crossed your t's and done everything curriculum wise. And then when it comes to looking at the physical space, there's not much emphasis in that. It's like, oh yeah, okay, you have a library, you have a cafeteria, you have a nurse's station, or yeah, we realize that your school was built in 1945 and now it's 2024. So my answer is, it should happen. There shouldn't be a, it's too expensive or we don't want to do it because we may have to change it, 2 years down the line. Do it right. Do it because it's 2004. Do it because for many of us in the disabled community, it's the environment that's not willing to accommodate us. But yet we have to accommodate ourselves when our environment doesn't work for us.
And then the impact on the learning outcomes is often blamed on the individual rather than
Right.
recognizing the influence of the environment. What you've said are words so close to my heart because I very much believe that the equity of a school or a community is very much in the environment you build more than the dispositions of the individuals within that space. You create an environment where people can be successful, they can be inclusive, they can be all these brilliant things we
You
strive
know,
towards.
I remember as a child growing up in Greece, beautiful country, right? But we don't talk about disability. We don't
Mm,
make things accessible. And I used to remember how I literally had to beg for my teachers to allow me to leave class a
Hmm.
few minutes early so that I could take the stairs, go clear across campus to make my next class on time. I should have had to beg, but I did it because I didn't know any better. So now, how many years in, I'm finally saying, well, hang on a minute. I'm going to speak on it and I'm going to get in your face, and you're maybe not going to like me because of it, but it needs to happen.
Yes.
You know,
Um, I'm
there's
gonna.
a lot of work to be done.
Well, there is a lot of
And
work
that's
to
why
be
I'm
done.
here.
Exactly, so that we can get people thinking about
Yeah,
the visual representation of things, the physical representation of things, even time wise as a reflection of people's ability to move about a space.
right.
All these things which can affect how easily people can move and exist within and through an environment. Now, because I've got the privilege of having you here, I would be remiss not to ask this, and I think for many people this will be a very interesting point. But you've made a choice to use the word disabled as a pronoun, and just a 30-second take. What has been the impact of this for you? And is it something overall that you would recommend as a explicit identity for all individuals living with a disability because you feel it supports their inclusion? What's your experience of it?
My, to be honest with you, it took me a long time to proudly use disabled as part of my pronouns. Um, I decided one day this is part of who I am. It's not all of me,
Mhm.
right? It's part of me. I can only speak about my disabled experience. You know, there's a in our realm we talk about identity first language versus not. This is my choice. I choose to say that I'm disabled. That's my badge of honor that I wear proudly. Will it work for every disabled person? I don't know. That's for them to have the freedom, and I just lost my earbud. The freedom to decide if it works for them, but having that ability to make that choice
Mm.
that it works for them should be given to that person, right?
Yes.
So I would be naive in saying that my mm, how I've been approached since I used that as one of my pronouns is accepted with open arms,
Okay.
right?
Excellent.
Sadly, it's not,
Uh,
right? Even amongst people who I thought would be like, good for you, you know? Even people who I've known for years are, rolling their eyes every time they see, oh, there she goes again, saying that, October 6th is World Cerebral Palsy Day and she has cerebral palsy, so she's gonna post about it. And that's their uncomfortableness, and good that they're uncomfortable with that because that's the way it should be. So I'm not gonna stop using that as one of my pronouns, but I don't want the onus to put it on other people if that's not something that they're comfortable with. But I
yes.
will not be disrespectful if they choose to not do it, right?
Mhm.
Because everyone's journey is different.
Yes. And those points of discomfort for others can be a jump off point for growth and learning.
Yeah,
So allow them to be uncomfortable in that moment.
exactly. And
So
at the
that they
same
can
time,
grow.
it's often just uncomfortable still for me,
Hmm.
when I feel like, well, why don't other people see that this is a positive thing? Why don't I have the support that I think that I would hope to have from people who I've known forever, and yet complete strangers who I may meet at a conference or online be like, wow, that's really great that you've done that. And I'm like, oh, gee, thanks for acknowledging that. Thanks for giving me that space and that grace. Because right now, this is what's working for me. I wish I would have had the courage to do it sooner, but it's my choice and it's my pronoun. I don't know if that's making any sense at all, but it did make sense in my head.
No, that does make sense. No, thank you for sharing because, yes, everyone's journey is different.
Yeah,
And things that an individual uses, which works well for them, is not meant to be presented as everyone must do this, but it
yeah,
might give people insight into what might work for them. And having that
yeah,
basal respect of recognizing that even with the same label or outward identity, people can have very different experiences. So we must
of course.
respect the different expressions of what might be considered broadly the same identity.
And
This has
uh,
been really wonderful. Uh, One final thing that I would like to
okay,
ask you
great.
for is with each episode, we look for a key takeaway. And
Hmm.
just to ask you, is there a key takeaway for our listeners, a resource, a book, or just a reflective question that you would like to leave people with after listening to you?
Yeah. Um, Two things actually. I'm going to share a resource that I think is absolutely a must-have, and I had it here and now I can't find it, so that's not a good thing. It's the book. Here it is, if I may. Is Would it be easier if I just point it to the camera, or do you want me to read the
You can
title?
point
Or
it to the camera.
okay, it's a book called Navigating Special Education Relationships on
Mhm.
how to build collective efficacy,
Yeah.
and it's written by, oh, that's backwards.
Oh no, no, it's correct way for me.
Okay, Amanda Lai and Lori Ball. Lori Ball is the executive director of SEDIA, and Amanda Lai has been a school psychologist for many, many years.
Yeah.
And it's based on their experiences, their conversations that they had over the years on uh, schools not really understanding where certain students were coming from,
Mhm.
their families, a definite must read. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
personal but effective, and that's a definite plus for a resource. And
Hmm.
then I guess I would want to leave your listeners with a challenge in the sense of be careful not to look at a person's disability as the only thing that's part of them. So if you're genuinely interested in getting to know that person for who they are and what they do and their values, are you comfortable looking beyond? Are you comfortable asking those uncomfortable questions?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable allowing them in your inclusive space? And if you're not, are you willing to let them help you do that?
Thank you for a powerful reflection there. The importance of looking beyond, and also the importance of being able to listen to enable people to represent themselves as they wish to be represented and included. Um, this has been a really thoughtful discussion. It's our longest
Thank
episode
you.
so far. I might chop it up a little bit,
Okay.
but for our listeners, I'll place links in the description for all the things that you've mentioned and the book especially,
Super.
and also for places that you can connect with Nicole and explore her ideas and the work that she's doing. Thank you all
Thank you
for
for that.
watching or listening, and I will see you on the next episode of DEIJ Hot Takes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Nicole. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.